Are we just not doing an intro bit, or?
No, I guess not.
Can't make me talk first.
Fine, I guess my plan won't work. So this is Timmy, Johnny, and Spike, with your hosts Timmy, Johnny, and Spike.
I'm Timmy. My name is Ben Miller.
This is Ben. He's Timmy. I'm Eric. I'm Johnny.
And I'm Cody, and I'm the Spike.
This is a little bit of an inconvenient time because I've lost my voice over this week. So sorry.
That's what you get for going to land.
I know. But we are a Magic the Gathering podcast. We are going to be talking about current events and such, plus maybe some special episodes about certain formats and whatnot. But we're a layman's take on Magic the Gathering and what's coming up.
We are by no means professionals. We hold several grinders under our belts, but not a single finish among us, and even combined, it's not close to a top 8.
I got like a top 64 once.
I've got a top 30.
Yeah, no.
That's not bad.
At FNM.
Yeah, the FNM at Nexus. I got top 20 one time at FNM.
So combined,
I've
that's
won
like
a shit ton of FNMs. I was talking about top 64 in a PTQ.
Oh, well, then with that in mind, I got real close to a day 2, sneezed, and I lost. I call it sneezing, because if I choke, it sounds real bad now.
I've never even been to any, like, hardcore official Magic tournaments.
That's right, you're Timmy.
I'm a Timmy!
So you want to explain the analogy?
So, when it comes to, there are 3 kinds of Magic the Gathering players. There are Timmys, Johnnies, and there's Spikes. Timmy's your real basic kind of player whose whole entire shtick is he just wants to play the game. Johnny is a combo player, and a Spike hates losing. They're the tournament player. To kind of further this example, a Timmy will play 10 games, lose 9, and win 1, and be happy he got to play.
Hell yeah.
A Johnny will play 10 games, lose 9, win 1, and be super stoked the one time his combo worked. A Spike will play 10 games, win 9, lose 1, and be real upset he lost 1 game. That's me. I still can't sleep at night.
You're not that bad, but you do win more than most of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't like to brew. I like to play net deck. I'll be the first to be the net deck scummer.
I like to explain my convoluted 7-piece combo to people.
and then next episode, your combo plays through the Wild Draw 4!
And then I punch people.
Mm-hmm.
I like to punch people. It's a good way to kill people. You know, face to face, be like, I'm gonna kill you.
You're the Gottlieb Primal Hunger.
Yeah, pretty much. Like,
you just want to play a 12-12 and turn it sideways all over the drill.
You know, and if I don't have to turn it sideways and I still get to punch you, it's good too.
So like
vigilance,
like a war tortle search. I can't.
War tortle. No,
war storm surge.
It's the enchantment from Cons. It's a green enchantment. If your creature is bigger than a 4/4, it gets if it gets +2/+2 if its power is greater, 4 or greater, and it gets vigilance.
The only thing
from Fate Reforged, Dragon Scales, and it's a 5-drop enchantment. Scale Lords,
Endurance.
I only remember Butt Fight. Let's be honest.
Assault Formation.
It was an uncommon too.
Yeah, and it wasn't good.
No, it is good. It's a green card that gives fucking vigilance.
And with us, we got someone else with us, though.
Oh, yeah. Philip's here for our first podcast.
He's our guest.
He's our Volrath.
I'm an elusive 4th kind of player who would be perfectly fine making all decisions based off of a D20 roll.
The chaos.
He's the individual that will play Sword of Dungeons and Dragons casually. Which I'm also 110% okay with. Like, that's the only card. It's the only uncard that's too good to be an uncard.
Quick question.
Quick answer.
If we're casual, can I run that in Miri?
What?
If we're playing casually?
No.
What, please?
I'll blow it up.
I don't care.
I'll blow it up constantly.
Well, here's the thing, is if you're going to make a deck designed entirely around swords, like a Volrath player, which is all about the Lord, then I would say yes. But
if your deck does not contain a single creature or non-land card that does not have the word sword in it, then yes, you can.
We're going to roll back about 45 minutes before we started this. When I got the bright idea to make a deck of 100 swords, It's not good.
It's like Aladdin and the 40 Thieves, except it's one guy in his closet full of swords.
But I didn't spend 30 minutes getting excited on Gather about anything named with sword.
While you all were playing Magic, I studied the blade.
Raging Sword Tooth. Yes! And then Swords to Plowshares. Goodbye!
Oh, good.
We must remember the true catalyst of this whole sword debacle. Them trying to get me to take Sword of Body and Mind out of Miri.
Well,
Yeah, I don't think that Sword of Body and Mind's a good in EDH.
that can be a question we come back to later, because today's topic, actually, funny enough, despite the fact that we are a super casual layman's podcast, is Masters 25, right?
Yeah, we'll call this this intro bit where we bullshit the douchebag buffer. Where we're just douchebags for like
You know
20
what
minutes.
we should do? We should go around and name, before we get started on all the negative stuff, we should go around and name one thing that we're happy about with Masters 25.
Actually, first let's go through and explain what formats we play the most of.
That's fair.
Because that's very different between the three of us.
That's very true. So I play primarily Commander. I love playing Commander. It's pretty much all I get time to play right now. So that's mostly what I play.
I play almost strictly limited. I draft and I play sealed. I play cube drafts. I do play EDH and I do play a little bit of standard, but most of it is either online drafting or at a couple game stores, local game stores, and drafting and playing sealed.
I play Pinochle. No, jokes aside, I play a lot of competitive formats, primarily standard, standard, older listeners, type 2, Commander, though I've taken a really long break from Commander. Played Modern for a little bit and realized that I don't have the wallet to keep up with that at the moment, and I'm not maxing out any credit cards lately, but mostly Standard is my big one here.
You also, a long time ago, had a Legacy deck.
I did have Legacy Reanimator. Would you like to see it?
Sure.
That was the joke, was he built Legacy Reanimator and he would show anyone who listened.
I was so excited. It was the first time I'd ever owned a Legacy deck, and I had Legacy cards. It's Blue Black Reanimator, Underground Seas, Gristle Band, if you want to get into that. Anything. It was so much fun. And then I immediately played Legacy for the first time and played against Deathrite Shaman, and I didn't play Legacy anymore.
Yeah, that was also the set that Deathrite Shaman got printed.
That is correct.
It's like I started playing Modern a little bit and delved into it the same time, like 3 months later they banned Pod, which was the deck I was playing. So I played Modern for 3 months and then sold my deck.
Remember when we were toying for a little while wanting to do Splinter Twin, and then they were like $20, and then a week and a half later Wizards of the Coast was like, you can't play infinite copies, what do you do? No, ban that. They banned Splinter Twin.
No.
So
We were upset again.
I really wanted to play Splinter Twin, and I mean, if my dream deck honestly would be playing Is It Delver in Modern or Legacy, but let's be honest.
Grixis Delver? Yeah.
Is my boy.
Man, so I'm working my way. I'm slowly picking up
Downtown.
parts. Yeah, working my way downtown. I'm picking up parts for Titan Shift. And I want to play that. I'm just waiting for, hopefully, Escape Shift to be reprinted so it's not goddamn $60.
And then my formats, I consider myself decent and limited. Many things there. I play very competitively in Standard, usually mid-range, typically white-black. And I play, right now, a lot of Orzhov vehicles in Modern.
That's
Commander, oh man, I'm super casual.
we were just talking about the House of 1,000 Swords, so
Yeah,
Deck of 1,000 Swords.
we must do it.
isn't that like a
I
Chinese
mean, I
kung
played
fu movie?
primarily pre-cons.
Probably.
The only thing I've really built myself was Tazri.
Mm-hmm.
You have a really
Tazri.
cool Tazri now, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we play. You'll be shocked to learn. Well, first off, I've been playing for a bit, about 10 years now.
Yeah, what was your first set?
Shards of Alara.
Shards of Alara.
That was your first set, too?
Yes.
What
Yeah.
was your first set?
I came in right at Battle for Zendikar after. playing in Mirrodin ages ago.
Yeah.
My first set was M15.
Yeah, funny enough, we came in right at the same time Mana Burn left the format, so the first F&M we played, everybody complained and also simultaneously loved losing Mana Burn.
And then that standard both shaped and jaded mining Cody's playstyles.
Yeah, our perspectives are real jaded. We call it the Dark Times Eldrazi winter.
God,
Yeah.
Annihilator is so broken.
That wasn't even played.
What? No?
Like,
Oh my god, no.
Well,
The only-
it's broken in Commander.
the only control deck really in the format that was playable was Eldrazi White-Blue and then Caw-Blade, and the only reason you got away with Eldrazi White-Blue is just because you had the same decks, but instead of swords, you bought Emrakul instead, and you
Yeah.
just waited.
Yep. And one with that or Celestial Colonnades, you piece of shit.
It's a perfectly fine card. The people that were behind it piloting, not to throw shade, were bad people.
That's fair.
When you're the new kid on the block and you come to your format with white, red, and landfall, and the first deck you play against is a guy who's like, Squadron Hawk, take all 9 out of my deck. First off, how'd you get 9? But
Yeah, I originally played in Mirrodin where we got to see equipments for the first time, and I fell in love with it, and then lost the playgroup for many years, came back to see what it looked like with Dragon Control in Standard. Esper Dragons.
Yay!
That was so fun.
I love
And then Atarka Red came back to beat it in the ass.
Yeah!
boo boo.
Alright, just because I play red-green doesn't mean that I can't have fun.
No, you're allowed to have fun as long as that fun is a 3/7 hexproof flying who's got a funny face.
Red green is my favorite two-color combo, man. Like, red green
So-
is the
I
shit.
came back perfect timing to somehow figure out that playing red-green landfall would piss off a lot of people because they didn't know what the fuck you were doing.
So this
That's
is
true,
you're,
yeah.
so you're the dude that resolved Omnath Locus of Rage casually, and they just went wet
And then played a forest.
and went double wet.
Alright, let's get into this Magic 25 thing.
So how are we doing this by color?
So
Um,
to let it be known, so the full spoiler of Magic 25 is out, mostly because it launches in what I want to say almost a week, 2 weeks tops, give or take.
I believe it either launches this Friday or next Friday.
Right. So
Because they rushed out spoilers. They started spoilers
Yeah.
a week before the full spoiler was out.
Yeah, the full spoilers are out.
So,
So-
what are your impressions? Because I have very strong feelings.
I forgot they were reprinting Animar.
Yeah.
So, Masters 25 is supposed to represent the last 25 years of Magic and a lot of key cards across various released formats that people are remembering. Azusa, Jace the Mind
Yeah.
Sculptor, Blood Moon, Animar for Commander, Prosh, stuff like
Funny
that.
story about the past sets of 25 years. They actually made it a rule for themselves that they have to have at least one card from every set.
Interesting.
So there is a card from every set in that
I
spoiler.
think it might be
That might shape my-
And no, the rule was, well, no,
because I don't think
they were
that
watermark cards.
Yeah, those are watermarks.
They were the only cards that had
Ravnica
watermarks.
or Theros, I don't remember. One of those two didn't get a card.
Mm-hmm.
They were cards specifically that had watermarks.
Interesting. Well, so my
It releases March 16th.
so in a week. So today, the date today is March 7th. So literally a week from now,
Oh yeah,
from this point.
new
Yeah,
art
5 days
for
from now.
new art for Stang.
Yeah, for Stang, the green-red dude from Legends that made a copy of himself. So my Stang,
Staying twin.
Jeff will be happy.
Stang Twin, and the third Stang, the secret Stang, Stang, the band member.
Do you know what's staying?
So, my impressions of Masters 25 is it sounds like a super great set on paper because all the marquee cards that are in it are super solid and cards that have either been printed multiple times that are super expensive to have. But alternatively, there's not a whole lot in here I personally would chase for. So it seems like a super great set to play in a limited format, but not something I would want to buy. Just because there's nothing in here I personally would want.
So the thing I was looking at was twofold. First off, I like to draft master sets. They're usually very fun and themed in draft. this set has no theme for draft.
Right.
It's just cards. It's a bunch of cards.
all over the place.
It is.
Yeah, so there's no, like, one of the master sets had a Thallid theme. One of them had a... Iconic Masters had Dragon themed. And just each master set was very good at making sure it was a draftable set and being able to be released as a supplement that people could play in events. I don't think this one does.
So it's Theros Heroic.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, is that going to keep you from participating in drafts?
I might... So, I usually draft... This is going to sound weird, but I usually spend about $120 on Masters drafts. I draft the format 4 to 5 times on average.
Yeah, but that's that's spread over a couple weeks, right?
No, that's the first week. No.
No, that's usually over a couple of weeks, but yeah, most people only ever draft it once.
Because, like, it's what? It's like a $15 draft?
Oh my god, no, it's like 30.
Draft.
Oh, $30?
30 to
draft?
50, yeah.
It's going to be
Oh,
$10 a pack.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It's the freaking...
It's a master set.
It's a master set. What?
I know. These sets screw me in the ankles whenever I'm trying to buy a pack or two.
Oh man, just
Now
buy
it's-
singles.
Now it's time for Timmy's Budget Corner.
Hey, yeah, Timmy's Budget Corner. Don't spend money when you're just trying to get cards. Don't buy just packs. Buy the damn cards.
This has been Timmy's Budget Corner. But
So to me, just looking at Masters 25, it feels like everything left over from Iconic Masters. It really feels like they went and they had an idea. They were going to go do this iconic from the last 25 years things. I'm going to keep combining them because they feel the same to me. But all of the draft-themed cards went into Iconic Masters last summer, and we got stuck with everything that they thought would be cool to reprint, and they just put it in 25 instead.
right. Like, for me, a lot of the key cards that are examples of that I can see and I can agree with on is Vendilion Click, Jace the Mind Sculptor, Blood Moon, and Imperial Recruiter.
The filter lands, too.
Those aren't like iconic cards though.
No.
Those are just cool.
Yeah, that's true.
I would say that they're iconic only because
They're kind of the one-of-a-kind.
they're the only land really that does what they do. I mean, other than their cycle of having allies and enemies as they function. But they are not... If I see a set and I see a filter land in it, but I see Imperial Recruiter, I'm going to be way more concerned with my Imperial Recruiter because every time I see one out in the wild, it's $400. So...
Yeah.
As me as a Timmy player, I didn't even hear of Imperial Recruiter until everybody started freaking out because they were reprinting him in the set. I'm like, what's Imperial Recruiter? Oh, that seems real good. That was my first words when I saw him. Oh, that seems real good. Don't judge me so bad.
So,
And I
no,
saw
I'm
it,
only
I was
like...
like, oh, that's all right. Oh shit, it's $250.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't
But-
look it up right away. I looked at it and was like,
so, but I can agree with that. When I see something like Imperial Recruiter, Flash, who's heard of Flash except for everybody? If you are a new player coming into the format and you see a card called Flash and you go, huh, I have an enchantment with that ability on it, like, it's very clear that I
There's
agree.
a 1-drop that does this job better.
Right,
Like-
I quicken. I have a weird skill rote memory. So I used to work in card shops for years, and now I have this encyclopedic knowledge of like we were just talking about Whelming Wave.
Two of us here
Yeah.
had work
Right.
related in card shops.
Right.
I have been in card shops before, so I'm pretty qualified.
We've all
to-
been in
Qualified.
one. We've all
I interned at Nexus.
right.
I sorted
So we have somebody
cards and
directly
ran the
involved
shop.
in selling and managing inventory of cards, as well as I did online sales of high-value cards for a store for a little while.
Like,
So
there's
we-
a couple super iconic cards, like Edict Effects. Diabolic Edict is in this set. There's there's Pact of Negation in this set.
Right.
What? Really?
And then to me,
Yeah.
like, I only know
Yeah.
Master of the Wild Hunt because it was a
that's
card
right.
that was over $10 when I was trying to sell stuff online.
Right. But I agree with that
There's-
concept. With
Yeah,
the,
there's a lot of iconic stuff in here, but also a lot of this stuff is crap. Like, say you're choosing cards, right?
Uh-huh.
Say you have to choose a card from Innistrad that's iconic.
If I had to choose something that was iconic, and I already have my walker,
Yeah. From specifically the Innistrad set.
original Innistrad Dark Ascension.
Original Innistrad. Not the block, the set. Because there's one from each set in that block.
Yep.
There's actually 2 from each set in that block.
I would choose Mayor of Avabrook, because he's the perfect example of the transform mechanic in a Werewolf Horde.
Anyone else?
I didn't play it.
My knowledge of the set is actually real limited because I basically have only played since BFC.
I would have maybe... They just did Snapcaster Mage, so you wouldn't do that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I like your idea of Mayor of Avabrook. What about... They can't do Lily because they already have the walkers.
Right.
With Jace. So...
Yeah, is there a reason why they only did one?
What
walker?
about Lingering Souls? That's pretty iconic.
Lingering Souls is fairly iconic. It's shaped modern, shaped legacy. It's When it was out, it was a standard card to play.
But
or Delver.
Other reprints.
Delver is also
Maybe
good.
with just printing it again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Delver has also shaped multiple formats from Innistrad.
Right.
Why would you choose a Tree of Perdition?
Oh, God.
Well, I don't have a good answer for that. But I do have a question that we can bring up with that
Or
maybe a little later.
Or Triskaidekaphobia.
Nobody... Okay, so let's talk about Triskaidekaphobia for a second, because that enchantment in Iconic Masters... I hate Triskaidekaphobia. I think it's probably the dumbest card ever printed in Magic the Gathering as an enchantment.
It's so much flavor.
However, as an iconic card, I think it fits the mold. Because what other enchantment are you going to see that says, if somebody's at 13 life, I guess they lose, dun-dun-dun. Like, what are you going to... Like, what other card does that? So as an iconic card, when you think Shadows over Innistrad, you're probably going to think, that's the card that had Triskaidekaphobia, Fear of 13 in it. That's fantastic.
It had 13 of everything in its art, as well as 13
right,
yeah.
keys
like,
on the card.
That's
the card
outstanding.
Was beautiful.
It is an iconic card.
seriously?
In design.
Yeah, everything...
No, there's not 13 candles.
Yes, there
Yes,
is.
there are.
Even another count.
I guarantee you, everything in that art is 13 times, as
I
well
don't
as the
see-
13 T's written in the text.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see the other candles.
So, now, talking about iconic cards, we have...
It's just there to provide light.
to answer your
Otherwise,
question...
the art wouldn't make sense.
I got you.
So, to answer your question about... was your question asking why they would put Jace the
Why
Miser?
pick Triskaidekaphobia? Because everybody, that's all I hear from everybody about it, is that's a stupid fucking call.
Because what other card is going to elicit a response like that?
That's fair. Master.
From Shadows over Innistrad?
Yeah.
We didn't have
Fevered
the bell
Visions?
cards yet.
What's that?
Fevered Visions? Fuck, I don't know.
Yeah, they
It's
didn't-
pretty much the most iconic card.
Wait,
Right.
did they not put a meld cards in here?
No.
No,
No, that would take up 2 slots.
Because Meld,
you would
while
need
is...
2 cards.
Well, I mean, they do 2 cards from every set?
No.
No.
Only
It's just iconic stuff.
The only other thing I could
The only
think
one
of
they
that
did
would
from 2 from each set was, I believe, original Innistrad and Zendikar.
The problem
Original
with Shadows and picking something iconic is you
I
can't
think.
have the transform because they're not going to print double-sided cards in this set.
no.
So you get stuck with losing a lot of things. Like, you can't go with Avacyn.
Right.
You can't go with another Planeswalker because it's they've already gone with. But there's so much flavor, and everybody remembers Triskaidekaphobia.
And I agree. I agree with that 100% wholeheartedly, despite the fact that every time I look at Riki Tiki Tempo, I lose my mind because I think it... When I saw that card printed in Standard, my first reaction was not... So usually when I see a card in Standard, I give it the fair shake of going, how am I going to use this? Which is a lot different than when I was starting my grinding, where I would see a card and think it's garbage until I lose to it.
Yeah, how many beat that test?
Gobble Fireslinger for starters. So, that being said, when I saw Triskaidekaphobia, my first thought was not my usual, how am I going to use this? My first thought was, Jesus, I'd have taken Thing in the Ice over this.
Because we didn't have Tree of Perdition yet, right?
Right.
It was a Eldritch Moon card.
Right.
Yeah.
When Tree of Perdition came out, I saw that and I thought, Triskaidekaphobia, blue-black spells with alternate win colors.
See, I saw that, but I also saw Turn to Frog.
They chose Tree of Perdition, didn't they?
No, that was Tree of Benediction, or whatever.
No, but which one did they pick from?
Tree of Perdition and Tree of...
They have Tree of Redemption, not Tree of
Redemption.
Perdition.
Oh.
It was like Tree of Benefaction.
But wait, which one was the one that they did from the set, that Tree of...
Tree of Redemption from
From
Shadows.
Innistrad.
Or from normal Innistrad.
Tree of Perdition is the opponent's... So, Tree of Redemption is a 4-drop green 0/13 that says tap, your life total becomes 13, or switch your life total with Tree of Redemptions. Tree of Perdition is from Shadows over Innistrad, or Eldritch Moon. I think it's Eldritch Moon.
Eldritch Moon.
Yeah.
And it says, it's a 4-drop black 0/13 that says tap, target opponent's life total is switched with...
Target life total is an opponent.
Man, shut up, right?
Words hard.
Tap, switch Tree of Perdition's toughness with target opponent's life total.
Mm-hmm.
So the green one switches your life total with it. The black one switches an opponent's life total with it. And they're from basically time-shifted sets. Like, there's a lot of stuff in Innistrad that carries over to Shadows over Innistrad in a worse way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Shadows and Eldritch Moon is basically the time-shifted Innistrad.
They did
Right.
Vessel.
What's that?
They did Vessel of...
Nascency.
Nascency.
Yeah, Nascency. But hold on. Is this Darksteel that I saw? They did...
Probably. They did
Echoing-
one from every set.
I know, but
Echoing
they did
Truth?
Echoing Courage from Darksteel. That's the iconic card they wanted to pick from Darksteel?
Well, your other options were the other 4 Echoes cards, and Echoing Courage is the only one that actually does something. I think also maybe the red one, too. You can tell that my knowledge of Darksteel is super limited.
The original swords came, like Fire and Ice and Light and Shadow came out.
Yeah, but those aren't red cards.
Which is where my knowledge is super limited, because I don't play a lot of red.
Yeah, I mean, but those were the original sort of the pro
Right.
swords.
Right.
Like that could have one of those would have been neat to see.
So the thing is that when you look, that actually poses an interesting question, which is what makes a card iconic?
Yeah.
So when you look at a Sword of Light and Shadow or Fire and Ice, what does it do exactly? So it's +2/+2 protection from respective colors, and then when it hits you, it does 2 things, right? Mm-hmm. There are other equipments functionally that may not do the same thing exactly that does, but a lot of equipments give a buff effect, they generally give a keyword, and some equipments don't do either and they give an effect. When you look at a sword and break it down, it's an equipment, I put it into play, and then I give it to somebody and they hit a dude. That's not necessarily iconic, but if you look at something like Echoing Courage, which I'm going to turn around away from the microphone despite my best interest.
2-drop instant. Target creature and all other creatures with the same name as that creature will get +2/+2 until end of turn.
Right, it's a fairly solid minor giant growth antheming across other cards of the same name.
I could see it being very useful in like a token deck.
Right, so it's not necessarily something where it has to be good, it just has to be something that at the time no other card did that. And at the time of Darksteel, no other card really did something like that, I believe. I mean, if you tap Echoing Truth, it'll give you an example of other cards that do something like that.
Also consider you can't have a set with only rares.
Yes.
No, that's fair.
And then if you go back, I mean, you look at if you want to start including equipment, you have to hit something like Luxon Warhammer. I mean, go back to Mirrodin where equipment's
Umezawa's Jite.
They're pretty
Godsend.
aren't they? What?
Yeah,
World Slayer.
right. So,
Goddamn World Slayer.
Living Weapons would be better choice for something iconic.
Like a Batter Skull.
Yeah, but they have uncommon
Skin Render.
living weapon.
Yeah.
if you want to fill your uncommons common slots, Skin Render. I mean,
They did, I think, a pretty good job for filling iconic commons and uncommons.
Right.
A couple hiccups here, like having Ravenous Chupacabra instead of Necrotal.
Ravenous Chupacabra is a 4-cast 2/2. When it comes into play, it destroys target creature. Another card, just like it, is the same exact thing, except that creature blows up can't be black, called Necrotal. And I think
destroy target non-black creature, it can't be regenerated.
Right. And
for a 4-drop 2/2 black creature.
Moment of silence for regenerate. Alright, so...
And welcome back.
That was our moment of silence.
So,
What about
I think that... Sure, you have to have a card from mix, as long as you challenge yourself to have one from every set.
You sat down and
Which
you...
one did they pick?
Ravenous
Chupacabra.
Chupacabra. We just said that.
See,
That's the card we were literally just talking about.
Oh, there it is. I
Fucking
see it
Timmy.
now. Leave me alone. I'm here for a reason. I'm not Timmy.
So, I understand that you challenge yourself to have a card from every set. So you have bad Necrotal.
Necrobad.
Necrobad. It's not even bad Necrotal. It's less limited Necrotal, but there's a reason we refer to that. Like we refer to like Tribute to Hunger, we don't say hunger effects, we say edict effects. Mm-hmm. Because Diabolic Edict was the first of its kind and probably the best example of it.
What
Right.
is wrong with his face?
It's a Chupacabra.
He's got a messed up face, man.
It's a Chupacabra.
So you think their face would be like better for eating? It looks
It's
like
a-
he's like got like
it's
really
a
bad
me-
underbite.
It's a
It's a
horror.
Mexican mythic animal.
He looks like he's got like an underbite from hell.
Next
like it's
set,
like
I want to
2 inches.
see, after Dominaria, I want to see Enter the Unknown. It's just a bunch of cryptids. 1 in a blue, 1/1 flying goat man.
I would like to see further mythical monsters, like a giving Krampus, or
That's the next Christmas
Angry
card.
Babadook.
It's a Babadook, but he's got menace.
Yeah.
Babadook. So back to the initial thing. When you pick a card that's iconic, it's got to be something that when you think of the set, it's got to be a part of that set. So it has to be something more like the Echoes in Darksteel was a cycle. So you could also use that as an example.
I get you.
Don't know why they picked Echoing Courage, but I realized that
They're wizards. They're not perfect.
they're not
In
perfect.
fact, we fault them a lot.
We do.
Yeah, we do.
And on top of that, I don't remember what rarity all the Echoes were. So,
Uncommon?
maybe?
I don't know.
I mean, they're uncommon now, so... uncommon as of that one.
Yeah. Well, like, they have things like, we refer to things like Jace's Zero as a brainstorm.
Right.
So they printed Brainstorm because that's what it's called.
Right.
Um,
Also, Brainstorm is the iconic blue card, and you can't reprint Ancestral Recall.
that's true. And they just reprinted Visions in Iconic,
Right.
which is close enough.
Right.
So
I mean, it's okay to come all the way to Ixalan because we're talking about the whole 25 years of Magic, but we didn't get a single card from Ravnica, and the only card we got from Laurelwind wasn't even an elf.
alright, hold
Well,
on. I'm pretty sure. Which Ravnica?
RTR
Ravnica.
or City of Guilds?
Like OG.
You gotta remember
Okay,
the
so City
lands,
Guild.
too, right?
Well, alright, if you did print something iconic, what would you print? Because I've already filled the land slot with the Laurelwind filter lands. Are they allies or enemies?
They're
Red, white.
So Laurelwind lands.
Mhm.
So you already have your Lauren representation on your filter lands.
Mm-hmm.
Laurelwind Morningtide.
I think they're allies.
Yeah, white,
green, black, red, white, green, blue, red, blue,
Opposite.
So you have your
So
Shadowmoor.
Yeah, Shadowmoor.
white, black.
Shadowmoor Eventide.
Right, here's 2 cards from Dissension.
As a Commander player, I'm happy they're reprinting those because they're making them more affordable.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually going to probably try to pick up 2 of each
Mm-hmm.
because I need them for my 5-color dragons to fix the freaking man.
You know you can only play one copy, right?
Yes, no,
Okay.
the other ones are going to go other
You said
places.
two. You said two of each, so I wasn't sure.
I just want 2 of each so that I can put all a set of all of them into dragons, and then I have copies of them that I can put into other decks that I need to play.
Right. Okay.
Because my dragon deck is my baby.
Right.
Because I'm a Timmy player and I like to hit people with big creatures. And dragons are mean.
It's not complicated. You just want to boop them in the snoot.
Yeah, I just want a little.
Badoop. Badoop.
And dragons, they like to badoop.
You want to give them the razzle dazzle.
Yeah,
Looking for the
rattle.
Ravnica card? It's not there.
Scouring.
So far I found 3 cards from Dissension, though.
So I found
But I know there's no Ravnica card.
I found a second Darksteel card.
Yeah.
Sundering Titan.
Sundering Titan was Mirrodin.
What's that?
Why would you do that? I'm taking your phone.
That's fine. You see that though? It's not a
Frenzied Goblin.
That's not a Mirrodin.
Ravnica.
Chalice of the Void is your Mirrodin card.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Sundering Titan is Darksteel.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's
Interesting.
2 Darksteel. Or is it there because? Yeah, I don't know.
Use your words.
I couldn't find them. They were gone.
Proud of you.
I looked for them and they were gone.
All right, so
Snap.
we have
I
Boros
fucking
Trump,
did it. Fuck you.
Guild Pact. What'd you
I
find?
guess I don't look close enough. But it's
Frenzied
Goblin.
Frenzied-
Come on. From Ravnica.
What?
From the place where we fixed all of magics.
So I disagree.
You get a
so
goblin.
so you get a goblin. It's not a great goblin, but you can't put it in the land slot because while shock lands are super great, again I defer back to a previous conversation of filter lands are filter lands, and no other land does that.
I found a second one.
What? No. It's a goblin. Come on.
Watch Wolf. 2-drop 3/3 uncommon, white green.
I mean, I guess it needs to be draft cast somewhere.
I mean, it's
So-
pretty good. It's a 3/3 for 2.
Fucking eat my shorts, Philip.
If it was a cat, I'd run it in my Miri deck.
So
You upset? I'd be upset.
I'm a little bit.
I'm just watching you guys fight, and now I have an immediate thought in my head that I'm super curious about. It has nothing to do with magic. I'm sitting here going, like, do you think Jace vapes? Because I'm sitting here looking at his Mind Sculptor art, and he's just like, he plays with his Mind Slinky, but I'm also thinking, like, maybe it's his vape mist.
I
If Jace
believe it.
did
Headcanon accepted.
vape, he doesn't post Ixalan.
Why not post it?
Because he turned into super...
He turned into Tom Hanks.
He turned into that one
Cast
dude
him.
that we all know that goes to the gym every fucking day.
Yeah. He turned
He's
into...
no longer using illusions to make himself not look like Fat Jace.
Jace got swole, bro. Jace got swole.
He turned into
Have
a
you ever had
Chad.
to spend, like,
No.
what was it, 3 hours on a ship?
3 hours.
I mean,
That's about how
3
long...
hours of reading. I think it was probably closer to months of actual ship time.
Okay.
So he got pretty swole. So now he doesn't have to be like, yeah, zombies.
He, like I said, he turned into Tom Hanks from Castaway. Like his best friend instead of a volleyball is a Gorgon.
I
So
want in some future lore upcoming, since Jace is actually big boy now.
that he
actually-
vapes.
I want him to like deck somebody just in the lore. I just
Oh
want
my
him to,
God,
like,
he
full on
won't.
just whack.
So
He
blue red
won't,
Jace with
because
+1 Zappa dude for 1 damage. He
Prior
can't
to
block.
him becoming muscly, attractive Jace, or not prior to, immediately after,
Also known as
He gets
shirtless
his-
Jace.
he gets his mind reset and
Kylo Ren
actually
Jace.
becomes more powerful than we've known so far, because they didn't really hint towards how much stronger he is with all of his memory than he was without with partial memory, because he mentions very quickly that there are some techniques of magic that he remembers now from a child that he didn't have from memory resets before. So,
Man,
So-
Jace going forward could be...
he's Jason Bourne.
He could be...
Oh my god, stop.
He could
Jason's
be
Jason Bourne.
Goddamn Bourne.
He's Jason Bourne.
Oh my God! It's
Jason
Jason Bourne.
Jace Bourne.
Jace Bourne. The Jace conspiracy. Or the
Valerian.
Jace
So,
identity.
Jace Valerian.
So,
All right.
So,
So
we gotta go off track.
back on topic a bit.
yeah.
Another issue I have with 25, which while I probably will draft once, but I don't expect it to be fun, it's also probably not worth it, considering that you have, like 4 chase cards that are worth a lot of money, and then stone nothing.
I mean, if you draft next Wednesday...
Define... Sorry, go ahead.
If you draft, I'll draft once with you.
Okay.
I just have to get the line.
Not this... not a week from today, but the week after that.
Yeah.
Define...
Or Friday, because release draft.
What is your definition of a chase rare? Is it something that's immediately valuable, or is it something that is a card that someone would aspire to get? Like, example, Jace ball's expensive, Imperial Recruiter ball's expensive, Azusa ball's expensive.
I would like to...
Phyrexian Obliterator?
For a chase rare, I would like to go even on a pack.
Right. Okay.
So some sets are really good at that, and some sets aren't.
So you'd want to pull a Coalition Relic.
Yeah.
I'd be happy
I
with
would be fine with Coalition Relic. I would be upset with a Chroma.
Okay.
You know what would make
that-
me mad? Blue Sun Zenith.
So something that happened.
You take that
with-
back. Card.
With
No.
Masters 25 is they're coming off a lot of hate for what is being widely perceived as a failed iconic Masters, and they have possibly a misconception that the failure to iconic Masters was due to low value because the cards they picked weren't good. When overall the value of iconic Masters was actually pretty even. There wasn't anything huge that spiked up above everything else. But the general low value came from it being spoiled way ahead of when it was actually released.
Mm-hmm.
With Masters 25, they're going for the shock value. They're doing what I call the full Vegas,
Right.
where you can win the car or you walk away losing all your money.
Right. So it's
So
the
you're going to come
equivalent.
out with a 13-cent Mythic, or you're going to come out with a $125 foil Jace.
Would you say that Masters 25 is the full set release of an Invocation style set?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Because you're chasing that one card at the same rarity that what all the masterpieces were printed at. A foil Mythic. A single foil Mythic.
Right.
Well, I like to name...
It's starting to sound like we have a very controversial opinion.
Yeah, I like to name sets like these the Prince or Pauper formats, where you either come out rich as a prince or you're Ben.
Hey,
So-
I fully believe I am cursed with master sets.
This is the dude that pulled a balance.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
looking for any EDH staple that he could use in like one of his 4 decks, and he pulled a balance.
Yeah.
The only card in the set banned an EDH.
The only cards that I've pulled good out of was Brian picked them for me, and I pulled Scalding Tarn and a Snapcaster Rage.
I really feel like the target audience for these packs, not necessarily the cards, are anybody who would be willing to go in and drop $10 for a pack of cards and hopefully get something to buy an entire box off of. Get that Jace.
Right.
Or completely miss out because anything that would even be close to even or less is just going to be a straight flop for them. Because
Right.
they're gambling. They're throwing in $10 hoping to get back $150.
Right.
If you balance out the set so that you have a lot more moderately priced rares and would actually make a very high healthy box EV, these people don't get their Killjoy. They don't get the full, yeah, I got a $150 foil because they're only getting the $30, $40 foil because everything's $10 to $20.
Right.
And a $10 to $20 set would benefit anybody who wants to buy it sealed because they can sell all the pieces they won't want and be ahead.
Right.
Yeah. See, I get that logic, but with all of the cards in here that have that are only expensive due to like limited print runs, or the fact that it's been so long since they've been printed, everything is, with this set being available at Walmart and such, everything's going to drop so fucking far that I don't think you'll be able to part out anything. And the chance to basically win the car or leave is going to drop to get one of 3 cards, which I think is going to hurt the set's sales a lot. So I think it's going to be a flop again.
I was talking about this earlier. I, honest to God, think that Jace the Mind Sculptor before a few months from now will be a $50 card.
I can believe that.
Yeah. It'll make it a little more affordable. You're going
He
to start
hasn't-
seeing them more.
He hasn't found his home in Modern now that he's been unbanned.
Right. Bloodbraid Elf fit right back into the Jund shell that Jund has always been. Yay. Yay.
And I just don't think the demand is there. The demand was a spike in reaction to people who were investing in Magic cards and needed a way to get these moved. And people who thought that the value was going to continue to skyrocket bought in and drove the price up.
Right. And I agree. I 100% agree with that. I feel like with that in mind, and taking the example of the Invocation Masters is what I think I'd want to call it at this point. I had a thought and it's completely gone now at this point. But Iconic, or Masters 25.2 Final Chapter, or whatever we're going to call it, definitely feels that way, where it's clearly aimed towards someone who wants to keep playing the box game.
Yeah.
Which leads me to my next question. If you would buy a box, we can go to limited. And so, with limited, we were talking initially about the idea that all limited formats have a theme. They've got dragons,
Yep.
or...
Well, the Master sets have.
Right, the Master
Up,
sets do.
up until now.
You have dragons in the previous set, Thalids, and this one is Theros. Using the example that the only way to play in Theros is to play heroic, or you don't.
So, here's the problem with this limited thing.
Right.
They have been, in the past,
Right.
have been very careful with their common and uncommon printings.
Right.
To preface this, if something like Counterspell got reprinted in Eternal Masters, I believe,
Right.
there was a
Correct.
2-drop powerful card in every color to match it.
Right.
Or in some cases, 1-drop.
Right. Lightning Bolt. Or no.
Lightning Bolt, Land of War Elves.
Right.
Or Foulhorn Elves, or whichever elves got printed in that. Things like that. So, yeah, Lightning Bolt. There you go, man.
Lightning bolt.
So,
He did Lightning Bolt. Yay.
so in this one, they did powerful 1-drops. But the problem with that is those included Brainstorm, which is not busted in limited, but pretty powerful, and one that is absolutely busted in limited, Dark fucking Ritual
Yeah. Jesus.
at common.
Nice art, though.
I can't believe Dark Ritual got reprinted.
What did? What?
Dark Ritual.
I can't believe...
So,
Look at that art, though.
I'm just
It's-
ready to Dark Ritual by Relentless Rats and Poppers.
Yeah, it's not a new art, but it's the best art, I think.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's the best art.
I agree.
so
I'm just ready to Relentless Rats and
the
Popper.
problem with this is that ramping 3 mana for 1,
Uh-huh.
like, they've done that before with, like, Seething Song
Right.
and stuff like that, but they weren't in sets that had powerful high drops.
Right.
Seething Song being in, like, Scars of Mirrodin, which was a notoriously fast format.
The only best thing you were going to get out of Seething Song was you play Seething Song and then you get 2 Goblin War Drivers.
Yeah, or, like, Pyretic Ritual,
Right.
stuff like that.
Pyretic Ritual Ball.
Those are
Lightning.
also in red, which
Right.
isn't known for giant fucking demons or Phyrexian Obliterator.
Unless they're dinosaurs in Ixalan.
Yeah. So, if you get what I'm going to call the limited nut, which is Dark
Dark Red.
Ritual,
It's
Phyrexian
an Obliterator, yep.
You just go.
You turn,
Ready,
you turn to Obliterator, which is a 5/5. When it's dealt damage, they sacrifice that many permanents.
The damage's controller sacrifices that many permanents.
Yeah. And
So
it's,
it can be you. If you really
Whoa.
want to bolt your own guy.
I'm gonna
I
make the
mean,
board
no.
nothing but this one Obliterator. Let's
Duh.
go.
Duh.
and then, like, you can pair black with any color, considering there's no theme in this, and then just ramp out fucking 5-drops for no reason. And there's no... Okay, I have to look at the spoiler again, but from I can tell, there's no way to stop that.
The Obliterator?
No, the turn 2 5-drop.
The turn 2 5-drop.
Just wait for Armageddon.
Your best
Swords.
option is...
They have swords in white.
White has swords and pacifism.
I mean, you could play Thalia and hope they don't get it.
Black has turn 3 murder, or if you're running Dark Ritual because you're in black, because you will, because it's the only reason to be, turn 1 murder.
Yeah, to kill off their 2/2. Or my personal favorite, you're playing against red, and they're like, ball lightning, and you go, boom, murder, and they're like, alright. I guess.
Depending on which colors you are, the elemental blasts. If you use the Dark Writ to pay for something that's red or blue, but who's going to main deck a fucking elemental blast?
I'm gonna laugh really hard. You're like, boom, mountain, swamp, dark writ.
Mountain, filter, Dark Ritual. Haha, joke's on you, fucker.
I'm not seeing anything in green that can really handle the Obliterator.
This is also assuming that your sealed or draft pool allows a dark writ and an inflect. It would have to be your pack one, pick one both times. Mm-hmm. Assuming that this happens, you're pretty well ahead.
That's why I called it the nut.
Right. Well, you're pretty super far ahead.
It's like a poker nut draw of pocket aces.
Pocket aces.
You're like, I've fucking done it. If there's any way I lose this, it's because somebody else also did it.
Someone else also did it, or they have a straight, and I don't.
Counterspell.
There's no counterspell in poker.
I don't play poker.
Clearly. You're the guy that walks up to the poker table, you look at your hand, hit me!
That's not how this works.
Oh.
Yeah, also there's
Mulligan.
no counterspells other than there's no counterspells other than the elemental blasts, I think.
No, there's counterspell.
Mm-hmm.
Like
the card counterspell. Oh, there it is.
The counterspell.
It wasn't loading on my screen for some reason.
It's all good.
You could have Curse Catcher.
Why?
It's a 1-drop, 1 blue, 1/1 that you eat it, and then they have to counter unless they pay 1.
Yeah, I guess. Anyway, my point is,
That's on
there
the
are
Dark
some
Ritual.
super busted cards at common. Half of the rares aren't worth anything.
Right.
And so there's no reason to take them.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be playing busted spell cards, but there's not really creatures to back that up with.
Right.
At least not good ones. So it's going to be based off of what pack you picked up, like which rares you got out of it, and how many busted commons and uncommons got past you before the pack went dry.
Truth.
You're going to be super spelling Ravnica goblins.
Yeah.
Gonna try and force that archetype, are we?
Yep.
Boom, I got the only frenzied goblin out of Ravnica. Did it.
I did that with one of the Modern Masters, the one with Fire Slingers. Drafted 6 Fire Slingers in a deck.
Jeez.
Played the Bloodthirst deck.
Uh-huh.
Mono red.
Mono Red Bloodthirst, you're gonna get pinged to death by real small rocks.
Yeah. Turn 1, Goblin Fire Slinger. Turn 2, ping you. Dealt damage, Stormblood Berserker.
Go.
3 minutes for 2. Go.
So
the other thing that's got me nervous is the other news that came out from Wizards regarding Masters 25 and Master sets in general is there's no longer the Eternal or Modern Masters print run, so there will never be, according to them, another Modern Masters print.
really?
It'll be like Masters 25 is the assumption. They didn't say they were going to do any more Masters, but they specifically said they were canceling Eternal and Modern Masters, so we won't have a format-specific reprint set again. And if that's the case in what we've seen with Masters 25, our Master sets are going to look like Masters 25.
So just a collection of cards that don't necessarily have any theme or any sort of particular value.
The problem with that
Potentially,
is
so we don't know.
So the problem with that is they said that they were going to be themed Masters.
Right.
Modern 25's theme is a card from every set.
Right.
So that theme, while not draftable, is still technically a theme.
You're not wrong.
Masters 25, but it's just like Masters, dogs.
This is the first one. This is the first time we're gonna do this, Masters themes shit.
Guys,
so we're gonna do it
figured it
horribly.
out. It's not 25 years of Magic. It's 25 different themes.
Oh shit!
You're right.
Holy crap! We've unlocked the
We've
code.
looked at
We've
it
cracked the
Not
code.
that there's not 5 regular themes. It's there's 25 different themes.
Are there
So you don't
25
see
different
them.
keywords?
Let's go right now.
No, there's no skulk. We're safe. There's
Woo!
no skulk.
Oh, dang.
No regenerate. Got there.
I saw
That's the
fear.
best.
I saw fear when I was looking.
Rat catcher.
I saw menace.
There's a
Seek
protection.
vigilance.
Fading.
Flying.
Yes,
We had
I've got
fade.
it.
Is fading in there?
Flash.
Fading.
No, I don't think so.
Trample.
Phasing.
I know there's defenders.
Banding. Where's banding?
No, baby.
Death Touch.
Please.
Defender.
So
I
now.
wanted them. So when I was looking into this, I wanted them to print a single banding card,
There's
Mhm.
a fear.
just because banding was an iconic thing for being
Morph.
iconically bad.
So Benelish veteran.
Cycling.
Yeah, or the 1/1
Reach.
banding flying griffin.
Yeah. Okay. Band. I think it's
Doesn't
Double strike.
matters nothing, right? But because this is a draft supplement set, every judge would have to go learn how to judge banding. And then every shop owner would have to learn all of the banding rules because there's one flying banding griffin piece of shit
Goddamn band.
well. But
in one master set that might have a draft at your shop.
thankfully, unless someone drafted several of those griffins, he can only band the griffin with one other thing that doesn't have banding.
Yeah.
So, thankfully, it'll just be like a multi-block, except with the special rules of knocking off the weakest link.
What were they thinking with banding?
So it's
It's
banding was the idea of multi-blocking,
Mm-hmm.
but they got it wrong.
They should have
So
just said you can
banding says you can attack. Banding creatures can attack and block as any number of the same creature with banding plus one other creature. So if you have 2 creatures with banding and 3 other creatures, those 2 banding creatures plus one of your other creatures could attack as one unit. You add all of their power and toughness together, and they take damage and deal damage together.
and then you would
So
assign...
say you fucking amalgam a 7/10 that's attacking.
a giant murder ball, if you would.
Guys,
In
we're going back
order-
to Eldritch Moon. We're melding.
So,
Yeah.
if on top of that, if one of them could fly,
They all fly.
They all flew.
If one of them had vigilance, they all had vigilance.
Guys,
So
why
it
am
was
I
like-
just now learning about banding?
it was
I'm gonna
like
go make a
Audric.
movie.
I believe that was how.
Kinda.
Banding
So-
is not allowed by Audrey because it's not on his goddamn card.
No, but the shared aspect.
Yeah,
with
so
banding.
to kill any of the banding creatures, you had to deal all of the damage and toughness. Otherwise, it would split between all the banding creatures, and none of them would die.
Whereas with multi-blocking, the attacker gets to assign his damage. With banding, the blocker gets to assign where the damage goes. So he just picked the weakest guy and kill it.
How many cards in Magic have banding?
There was a set that had banding in it.
It's about 20, I think.
It's right up there with horsemanship.
I
Yep.
was just about to say, which is worse, banding or horsemanship?
Horsemanship is unblockable for land. I don't know.
Horsemanship is unblockable unless you own a horse and a flag.
He's not wrong. They'll have horses and flags.
So unless you have horsemanship, you can't block horsemanship?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
And how many
That's-
cards have horsemanship?
Liu Bei.
Like 5.
They were all of the.
A blue one, a white one, a red one, a green one, and a black one.
What,
Those are the 5 that I know.
what the hell were they thinking?
The
3 portals. Dun-dun-dun.
Portal, 3 Kingdoms, 10 set.
Because that's like, you could build a monocolored Voltron deck out of that and it'd be gross.
They didn't have that back then.
I know, but now.
Yeah, how are they going to think 25 years in the future, Ben?
I don't know, they're magic.
God fucking
Oh.
Notice me, senpai.
Alright.
How do you
Alright,
get
so
the
I
dad
think-
jokes?
So,
I
I'm
think-
only non-father.
Do we have anything else on 25?
I think honestly we've kind of run the course on 25. Unless you have something you want to add.
I
Philip.
have one more. I mean, if we want to do reprint sets, and we want to do drafting, which they so claim they do, how come we can't just get something similar to Conspiracy, where we have a draft-centric set where you weave in these chase rares.
Mm-hmm.
So you have your draft-specific kind of cards, but then you have the whole separate portion where you're reprinting a good number of decent cards.
Yeah.
You introduce new cards at the same time you're reprinting.
Right, and the reprints that you are making should be within theme and the power level of the set you are making. Especially, like you said, if the set is centered on being sealed format. I think the reason that they don't do something like that, and this might sound like a controversial statement, look out, I believe the reason they don't do something like that is because Wizards of the Coast is owned by Hasbro. And they want to make money, but they want to make sure they're making money in a controlled fashion. And now I had, once again, a topic in my head I was going to talk about with that, and now it's completely gone. But, do you know what I mean in that regard?
They want to be able to sell $10 packs to people by printing the same cardboard in a controlled fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, you have a limited design space in doing so.
Because, like,
I don't know.
No, unless the chase rares are huge, nobody is going to pay $10 for a conspiracy pack.
Right.
Yeah. But I'm not talking full-blown conspiracy.
Right.
I'm talking about some cards that you build this draft theme around. So you're looking at mostly commons and uncommons are going to fill your draft-centric new cards.
Mm-hmm.
You probably have at least one cycle of something new for the draft.
Right.
But then you hit heavy reprint cards at the same time. You can still hit it with the non-$3 price because you're looking at a heavy reprint set, but you're forcing in the draft portion by allowing yourself to create a design space to make it more draftable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hey,
And Wizards of the Coast doesn't care much about the secondary market, so they could just do that.
I'm going to blow your damn mind right now.
Uh-oh.
That's what core sets used to be.
Oh my god. We get core sets back.
We are.
Yeah.
They're bringing them
Core
back.
sets used to be heavy common and uncommon reprints to be used in standard and draftable, as well as a couple a couple chase rares, like Primeval Titan and stuff like that.
Yay.
And
But if you,
usually reprint chase rares and a bunch of like 50 cards of new stuff to play with.
But if you do this in your Masters set, you have the confinement of not affecting
Standard.
modern and standard. You don't have to test against those.
Right.
You only have to test within its own format.
Which, in theory, should make it easier because you're not constrained to the constructed formats.
Technically, you can consider Vintage and Legacy, but you don't have to.
Yeah. So, they already used to do this in a pretty good fashion. I personally really liked the core sets, except for Origin. Because that core set was not fun to draft. It was like the first core set that was bad to draft.
Origin was not a fun set in general.
That's true. Fuck, man.
So
Alright,
our
so-
consensus on Masters 25 is that we like it.
Oh, no.
I am excited for the things it's doing for card prices because it makes some cards that were previously like a little spendy and you'd have to like get them a little more spread out. Makes mass buying sets of cards a little easier.
Mm-hmm.
And it's chunking prices of a lot of things like Iconic Masters did. So for people who play a lot of EDH who are looking for just singles or are trying to, I mean, I wouldn't say but trying to buy into a format because it didn't really reprint any modern staples or legacy staples that would allow entry except for, funnily enough, half of the Lantern Control list. Like Ensnaring Bridge.
Ensnaring Bridge!
So, if you're looking to play Lantern Control, now's about the time to buy in.
Don't play Lantern Control, it's probably being looked at.
No, they unbanned Bloodbraid Elf to deal with Lantern Control. They're like, fuck, it's too powerful. Release the hounds.
Unleash it.
Yeah. Unleash the elf.
And then two guys with large pointy wizard hats looked at each other with separate keys and they turned them and hit the nuclear option and Bloodbraid Elf was in the next set. And also a J snuck in there too.
And any random 3 CMC or less card.
Yes.
Yeah.
On Terminate. So
I am kind of excited for it, just because I need a couple cards in there, and it's going to make singles cheap.
right.
And I'm less excited to draft it. Like, I'm usually super excited to draft these sets, and it's a little less so, unless the first draft proves really fun, then meh. I'm a hard meh.
I'm not excited at all. I might draft it once just to make sure I'm not missing out on something. Maybe I don't see
Give me
it
my
right.
tablet.
But I don't believe that I'll be spending very much in sealed on this. Only thing I like about this is I've been looking to get Fetid Heath for a while, and I'm about to get a set for $40.
There you go. I, looking at the spoiler, half of these things I either already own, so I don't want them again, or I don't care. Like, I love to own an ensnaring bridge, but I know that there are easier ways to get an ensnaring bridge, so I don't like this set. I hate it. I think this set is not good, personally.
Alright. So, a bit of a split field. I'm pretty meh. Ben, you're kind of high on it because it's going to drop a lot of prices that you need.
Yes.
Philip, you also meh?
I'm not buying anything sealed.
So
No,
pretty
probably.
down on it?
I might do one
Pretty
draft.
down on it.
I might do one draft just to do one draft. But otherwise, most of the shit I'm going to buy out of it's going to probably be...
I hard pass.
yeah.
Hard pass.
Hard
Single
pass.
sellers are going to drive the prices down for me.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it might do the Iconic Masters thing, where if you go on eBay, prices are varied right now, but I've seen Iconic Masters boxes at $115 to $120, where you can buy an Iconic Masters box for the same MSRP as a standard box. And at that price, I would be okay buying Iconic Masters, because there's a lot that you won't get, but you still have that chance, and I would do that. If Masters 25 does the same thing due to the mass production, the selling in Walmarts and Targets, the I assume flooding of the market of this Masters set, then if we can find a box for, like, I would say $135 is when I would be alright with it. Or say they were selling packs for like $7 or $8. I would be okay buying a pack for $8.
Right. So,
But are you buying it to get the lottery card, or are you buying packs for draft?
I'm buying packs for draft. What the fuck do you think I'm doing?
But at the same time, you can look at this set and know that it's not going to be a fun draft. I would honestly rather go back and take that $7 and reinvest in Iconic Masters than play that draft again.
Or into singles.
I can't use singles to draft, though.
yes, you can. That's called a
clear
cube.
It's cool talk.
God damn it. Alright.
So speaking of cubes, and events, Ben.
Yeah.
So, do you know about modern event decks? Have you ever heard of them?
I think I've heard of them, but I've never really looked into them.
So imagine you're a new player, right? You're gonna walk into a store, doo. You have your 60 card deck. You don't have a sideboard yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're talking about those new decks they're coming out with?
Yeah.
Well, way to ruin the bit.
Ah!
So,
Fucking
Damn it!
keep going.
Keep
You're
going.
on a roll.
So back when Shadows or not Shadows, Dark Ascension came out, they came out with by Philip.
I'm going to cough a lot.
Okay. So they came out with something called the Modern Event Deck. And would you like to guess what these decks contain? Just hypothetically, off the top of your head.
Like, what do you mean? What they can take?
What they contained.
Well, they also had standard ones. They had standard event decks, too.
Garbage? I don't know.
So, alright. There were standard event decks in the same time. The event deck was supposedly a buy-the-box play FNM deck.
$45 for some of them. The
was-
one with Elspeth Wilkins one.
Yeah, it was like, I think supposed to be MSRP $30 for the FNM one, and then MSRP $75 for the modern one.
Right.
And then the local shops bumped those up in price based on what was in them.
So, you're a new up and coming FNM player, and you got yourself your green-red Stompy deck, right?
Yeah.
But you now possess the ability to get into FNM for $5, right? We got $30 laying around, give or take, right? Mm-hmm. And you see, in the case, or on the shelf, depending on your local game store, a shelf that says Standard Event Decks, a 75-card constructed deck containing decks based on popular Pro Tour archetypes.
Okay.
So $35 in a box for the opportunity to own Diet Green Black Constrictor.
I'm in, 100%.
I don't know what that is.
Okay.
All right.
So the event deck is a budget version of the decks that were in the top 8 of Pro Tour.
Mm-hmm.
So
It has
I will
one
go.
or two copies of some of the chase rares that make the deck, and play sets of some of the commons and uncommons.
And then
It's a bare
fillers.
bones shell
Yeah.
of the top 8 Pro Tour decks.
So let's go for the red event deck because it's the one people talk about the most.
Yeah.
The red one is mono red Hazoret right now.
Oh, that's right. It has the 4 ability Chandra in it, correct?
Yes, it does.
I was actually thinking about picking that up strictly because it has her in it.
Now you're getting to the meat of what I'm trying to talk about here.
Yeah.
Is
People buying the decks strictly for 2 or 3 cards in the decks.
what happened in Dark Ascension was one of these decks was Solar Flare that had everything in the event deck except for Liliana of the Veil,
Which was
and
a ridiculously expensive one.
Snapcaster Mage.
Which is also ridiculously expensive.
But it had the Think Twices, it had the Lingering Souls, it had the Sun Titan, it had the Gideon, it had one Gideon in it, it had, I think I said Lingering Souls, it had Burial Rites in it. Mm-hmm. All you had to do was get the Snapcaster and Liliana, and you had the Pro Tour deck. There was also an event deck for the White-Black Spirits. There's an event deck that for...
there was an event deck that was white-black that contained an Elspeth Knight Errant and Sword of Feast and Famine.
What?
Which was basically white-black tokens.
that was the modern event deck.
And then, so that was the modern event deck.
So that was $75.
That was the $75 one, but it came with, one sword...
one sword, one
One
Knight Errant,
Elspeth,
2 Inquisitions.
2 Inquisitions of Kozilek, which were about $25 at the time.
Path to Exile.
3 Path to Exile, 4 Raise the Alarms.
City of Brasses.
2 City of Brasses.
That's what those boxes are from.
So
Yeah,
here's
it had 4 fetch lands in it.
here's my event deck conundrum. I don't know yet whether or not they've announced if the new version is going to be limited print run, if it's going to be WPN only, or if it's going to be a free-for-all. And the reason why I bring that up is because depending on how they do this printing, it heavily weighs on my opinion. Because if we look right now at the Hazoret Rush deck, $35, 75 card standard deck that has a Hazoret the Fervent, who's currently sitting at $20-something, $22 I believe, and Chandra Torch of Defiance, which is currently sitting at $26. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You can pick these up for $35. If this is an unlimited run, if they are printing these unlimited, the price of standard is going to drop so fast it'll be ridiculous. We'll be able to buy competitive standard decks at pauper prices.
Correct. And if you look by comparison to the other standard decks that had come out, I'm just pulling up stuff off of the wiki, you have the Mirrodin Besiege deck, which was about the Battlecry format. The only thing really in here that was expensive was Goblin Guide at the time. So the deck itself, about $30, give or take, right?
Yeah. And Goblin Guide at the time, if I remember correctly, was about $20.
Right.
And it came with 2 of those.
Right, so you have $40 in value, but it didn't affect Standard too terribly much because Modern was still new, relatively speaking, at the time. On top
These are standard decks.
Yeah, I'm talking about Standard at the time. Modern had just come out.
Yeah.
You have the red white or the mono white one, which was just Kemba Regent and Mirren Crusader.
They're bringing back all the things they stopped doing this year, aren't they? Like event decks, core sets.
Yeah.
They're bringing back a couple things, but they're also stopping a few things.
The black event deck, which was green-black, had 1 Verdant Catacombs in it. Generally speaking, in the previous event decks, you had access to one or two marquee rares that would justify a store doing markup. And generally speaking, they, by existing in the deck, bolstered the deck.
So they're calling them challenger decks.
Challenger decks.
That's
Right.
it.
Challenger decks, there's 4 of them. There's
Mono red vehicles.
Hazard Aggro, Second Sun Control,
yeah.
Vehicle Rush, and some Hunter Surge.
Hunter Surge is black green snake.
So now
Counter Surge.
Yeah, the black green snake is what I said.
So the difference here between these challenger decks and the event decks is that, like I was saying, the event decks didn't really do too terribly much to the format as a whole, because the 2 big marquee rares, or 1 marquee rare that was in there, justified the MSRP, and they were still controlled enough that it didn't affect market too much. And at the same time, Modern was still relatively new, so you didn't have that lingering over your head while you were selling these.
Yeah.
And they were supposed to be the F&M in a box deck that was the next step for a player just starting out, having built their own deck. These challenger decks, being a bare bones shell, like you said, Philip, of these top 8 decks that are containing a series of rares that are expensive by themselves, like Torch of Defiance.
Yeah, there's 1 Torch and 1 Hazard.
Which is, and whatnot.
There's 3 Soulscar Mages, 4 Bomat Couriers, 3 Kari Zev Skyship Raiders, 3 Harsh Mentors, 1 Glorybringer, 4 Fanatical Firebrands, and 4 On-Crop Crashers.
So, you now have top 8 in a box.
Yeah.
Which
just
is...
take out put the Harsh Mentors in the sideboard, and then add an extra Chandra and hit your Glorybringer and Hazards.
What this is doing, though, for Standard, I agree with, is going to start throwing prices and availability all over the place, because they will buy the shell, take the missing parts, which are still pretty cheap now that you have half of the deck already for a discounted price, local game store pending.
If the price is held, you're still looking at least 2 more Hazaret at $44 for the pair, and at least 2 more Chandra Torch of Defiance at another $52.
Right.
It's still a huge markup, but if these are so available, they're going to drop until Torch of Defiance and Hazaret at least split the cost of the $35 Challenger deck.
Right.
You could buy 3 of the... You could buy 3 of these 3 of the same Challenger deck and take the parts out of all of them and mush them into one and spend just about the same amount of money you would be buying one and buying the same parts.
Right. You buy 2 Challengers, you have your whole deck.
Pretty much 2 or 3.
But we're not 100% what the print run's going to look like.
Right.
From what I understand, vendors can only order these in the full set of 4, just like the Commander decks.
Yes.
It doesn't say if it's limited or unlimited yet.
Well, they have to order by the set of 4. You can't order specific ones.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts?
So my thoughts are, it's going to make Standard a little easier to get into. That doesn't mean that Standard is going to be less stale. So whether people have fun with it or not, these aren't going to judge that.
I actually would argue that these will increase
Standard
how stale Standard is, because it's making it easier for those same decks to be built.
That's true. People don't have to innovate if they can just go buy the best deck.
Now, none of these decks are terribly hard to defend against if they all become the strength, but you're still looking at 4 decks that you absolutely have to build against anytime you build a deck.
And from my perspective, if I now have ready access to Tier 1, why would I build Tier 2?
Because
from my perspective.
Because you like watching your 7-piece combo go off?
I mean, yes, but
you like watching people try to read what Cascading Cataracts does with Bring the Light?
Nobody else knows what Gonti's Aether Heart does. And why Metalwork Colossus is an issue when somebody can go off with Gonti's Aether Heart.
Yeah.
Shut up! You've got, again, I understand those varying perspectives, but think about this from the perspective of somebody who wants to become a Spike, or somebody who wants to start playing FM or playing grinding. Why would I want to innovate when I now have ready access to Tier 1? And I agree, that's going to make Standard more stale. I absolutely agree with that.
Wait, whoa.
So,
hold on. What? This is the Second Sun. Oh yeah, sorry. Should have known that.
Second Sun control. Forgot to put Approach of the Second Sun in the deck.
I saw Approach of the Second Sun and was like, wait, what is this? Oh, it's called Second Sun.
Oh my god, Ben.
Leave me alone. What's money in the vehicle deck?
Heart of Kieran. There's 4 of them.
Are there 4 of them in that deck?
There are 4.
There are 4
Hurricanes.
in the.
There are 4.
Yeah, I was surprised by that too. I was like, oh. Vehicles
Oh
deck.
dear.
I'm still looking to have that in paper. So
Oh dear.
vehicles deck. Let's go.
Yeah, I said the same thing
yeah.
when they said vehicles. I'm like, what's expensive in vehicles?
4 Bomat Couriers, 4 Toolcraft Exemplars.
Oh, and Bomat Courier carries some value still. It's
Force.
not a lot, but it's still got it.
4 Scrap Heap
Yep.
Scroungers, 2 Pianolars, 3 DePaulas.
Heart of Kieran's sitting at about $3 now.
Oh my
4
god, how
veteran
might you
motorists.
fallen?
Unlicensed disintegration.
Yeah.
Lightning Strike.
Anyway, I don't know. I think the event decks are going to be good, but that's just from a standpoint of I need cards and I would not like to spend
Yeah,
$40 on some Chandras.
right.
I hope they do well enough to keep going because I liked the old event decks.
I'd say at GP Portland, I sold 1 Chandra Torch of Defiance for the cost of its deck.
Yeah.
So I would love to see these prices come down because I don't think that investing in Magic go together because I want to play the damn game.
Right.
Yeah, I think it'll be okay, but I'm super worried about something.
What's that?
That Magic's going to keep retiring and recycling the same things over and over again as they've been doing. They brought back event decks because they retired dual decks.
Right.
So we're not getting dual decks anymore, we're getting event decks. So we have event decks and Planeswalker decks, by the way. Those are still here.
Right.
So there's 2 standard type decks. I don't know why you would buy a Planeswalker deck when you could buy the event deck.
I mean,
You want the Walker?
well, no, the idea of the Planeswalker deck was for someone starting out. It's supposed to be the starter deck after you give away to new players those little 30
Welcome decks.
Yeah, the welcome decks. You give away your welcome decks. Then when you hook them, you have them buy the Planeswalker deck because now they have a Planeswalker, and that's like the big
packs.
that's the biggest card you could ask for in a new game as a new player because it doesn't matter how new you are, and you can lie all you want, but when you first started playing Magic and you saw either a huge creature when you first started playing, or you saw a Planeswalker, you thought that was the coolest shit.
Yeah.
So
Platinum Angel.
right, you see a huge. Like when y'all started playing, when there was still
Mine was near death experience.
right when you still had the starter decks when their marquee card was the foil big dude on the front. You see Halpak Alpha and you're like, fuck, that's a good card, and you're hooked. That gets you. Now it's the Planeswalker deck, and you see Jace, Cunning Castaway, or Ingenious Mind Mage, I think is the Planeswalker one. +2 loyalty, I get to just draw a card? Sign me up. Like, that's super good. After you've hooked them with the Planeswalker deck, you then get them to buy the standard event deck.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
They take
I
the
can see
Planeswalker deck, they play F&M, they don't understand why they're getting shit on, and then they go buy the event deck because you're like, well, this deck is the one that wins.
And they still only have a 40% win rate because they don't know what they're doing and they don't have half the cards they need.
So 40% win rate is better than 13.
Good math. Good math.
Of the Planeswalker decks because the first real pack of Magic that I opened was an M15 pack, and I opened Garruk Apex Predator.
There you go.
And that's like one of the more badass looking blockers.
Right.
So I was like, yeah! And then the second pack I opened was the Nissa of the set.
Right.
So, like, I got really lucky when I first started playing. And then for the next 3 years, I had no pack.
So was this a story about how you were hooked into Magic by the cool cards you got?
Yes.
Or is this a story about how you can't possibly get anything not a balance? I'm not sure where you were.
Yes. Yes.
I'm not sure where you were headed with that. And
Both.
you caught.
Outstanding.
I went cross-eyed. I didn't know where we were going.
Both.
Right.
But, like, I don't know, because I feel like the mono red challenger deck is probably going to see the most buying strictly because it has a walker in it.
Right.
I don't know. I think they're a good thing. Probably wrap this up soon. We've been talking for what, like an hour and a half, 2 hours?
Give or take. That leads me to a question that I have that we can wrap up with.
Let's do some wrap up questions.
So, we've been talking about Masters 25, and we've been talking about the draft of Masters 25, and we've been talking about cards. And the question I wanted to broach everybody was, why does Wizards print or reprint bad cards? And the example I have for that is, since we're talking about Masters 25, is Doomsday.
Doomsday is a good card.
Doomsday is not a good card.
Oh god, we're gonna talk for another hour.
Dude, you can play Doomsday and Zur.
Yes, you can play Doomsday in one deck.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it a
Just
good
because you
card.
like Zur and you play Zur does not mean
Well, like,
what
okay.
card it is.
Going into competitive French for a second, while I sit on my fucking high pedestal over here.
Parlez-vous commandants? what?
You like it because you can dark rid into
You know
it.
what? You guys come play Canadian
No.
Highlighter with me.
The point I was going to make was that there's a competitive Zur deck that plays like Mana Rock on turn 2, Zur on turn 3, first swing, go get Doomsday, and leave 5, like exile everything but 5 cards. One of those 5 cards is Lab Maniac, and the other one's Beacon.
Doomsday's a sorcery.
I thought it was an enchantment.
No.
Oh shit.
Sucker.
Yeah, no, that is a clearly a 3-drop sorcery, sir.
Yeah, it is.
What were you saying about Zur?
But what the fuck was I thinking of?
Not Doomsday.
Yeah, not Doomsday.
What color is Zur?
Esper.
Esper, that's right.
Merca.
Absolutely
That-
not.
that-
This is Merca.
You could run it in. I'm sure you could probably run it in Zur.
Yeah.
You're not gonna go get it with Zur.
Who the fuck was I watching? I was watching French on MTGO, and he was playing a Zur Doomsday deck.
He probably tutored the Doomsday in his
With-
hand.
Yeah, he
Probably.
probably had any number.
I don't know,
of
man. I was half
mono
asleep. I
black
didn't pay
tuners.
much attention.
So,
Alright, so my point's invalid. Doomsday fucking sucks.
again, why do you guys think Wizards print bad cards?
Well, they have to balance with the good shit, you know.
They can't have packs be higher than their price.
Like every card in the pack can't be worth $5.
It doesn't necessarily mean that the card has value.
Just like
I guess that is fair. I think more like what makes then a card bad objectively? Is it something that literally cannot be played? Because Doomsday can be played. It's just not a good card.
Yeah. I think bad cards are cards that limit playability.
Mm-hmm.
Or I am a huge proponent of they don't fucking do anything.
Right.
Like,
is that the card I'm freaking out about today? The 2-drop cat. That's a 1/5.
Oh, it's a
Grizzled Leotau?
yeah, Grizzled Leotau, a 1 green, 1 white, 1/5 that Ben wants to play in EDH for some fucking reason.
It's a good early.
It's a good
drop.
card.
No.
Oh my
Then you
god,
can-
no,
then
it's
you can
not.
stick a whole bunch of
encouraging.
It's a good
You
card.
can put a bunch of equipments on it, and
Maybe
it can
if
be
you're
a
playing Siege fucking engine.
What are some other green, white 2-drops that might be better?
I have all of them.
Funny enough, Watch Wolf.
He's
That's
not
like
a cat,
3/3.
but he's not a cat.
No, he's a wolf.
I'm going on cat Voltron, man. Gotta be a cat. Meow.
Adoran the Pouncer.
What's that? Which was that one?
It's a 1/1 double strike cat with Eternalize.
Nah.
Becomes a 4/4 double strike.
No, but it can get
A
zapped.
1/1 double. Yeah.
Then you play it later
Then
from
you
the
play it later
graveyard.
as a 4/4 double strike cat.
But 1/5.
At what point in EDH is a 1/5 impressive?
When it's
Doran?
a 1/5 on turn 2.
You're not playing Doran.
What if I do play Doran?
You don't.
Then you're not going to play Grizzled Leotau. You're going to play...
Doran's a tree, not a cat.
You're
So
gonna, no, you're going to play that
play
6'9"
Doran in that
Brontosaurus.
if you play Doran in that deck, you'll never do anything because all your cats will be stuck in fucking Doran.
In defense position.
Oh no, they'll be in the tree.
In the tree, stuck in his fucking bow.
Anywho,
You'll have to call like 7 different fire departments to get the cats out of the tree.
So I'm in the same opinion you are about what makes a card bad. If a card cannot 2-for-1, or in some way get me advantage immediately upon playing it, it's not a good card.
There's also a difference between good cards and fun cards.
Right.
Humble Defector. Not a good card.
But it's real
Fun
good.
card.
Yeah.
It's
Like
not strictly a bad card then.
So no, it is strictly a bad card.
You know what's a bad card?
Cards that give your opponent card advantage.
Mystic Ray Mora is a bad card. But if I play it in Zedru, suddenly a really good card. But it's still a bad card on paper.
You know, I just want to take a moment here to talk about a horrible card called Aggressive Mining. That's only good in Zedru.
Right. It's a bad card.
Yeah, Aggressive Mining is objectively a bad card.
Unless
you build a deck around it.
Notch had a chance to make a really cool card, and he made a piece of shit.
But yeah. A bad card is something that is objectively bad for me. Like I said, does not give me immediate advantage, or I can 2 for 1.
Okay.
If I cannot 2 for 1, or get immediate advantage, not worth it. Ixalan's Binding, good card.
So, as a limited player, one, look at things in a limited standpoint, as you might expect. I don't have as heavy expectations as you do. I just want a card that is playable and not a piece of shit.
Yeah, but you're also a master of jank.
Yeah, and I can take a card and build something around it, but that doesn't mean that card is good.
No, but you make it good.
Yeah, I have a Borborygmos Enraged EDH deck, but that doesn't mean that Borborygmos Enraged is a good card. I don't think Borborygmos Enraged is a good card. I think it's objectively bad. I just happen to build a deck around it.
So, as a player who primarily prefers mid-range play, for me, any card that doesn't immediately have some sort of board presence or gets stuck dead in my hand because I can't cast it because it's too conditional, it's just bad for me.
Yeah,
same thing.
Cards that are hard to cast are bad.
I'm perfectly fine with hard to cast. Mana-wise, I'm not okay with heavy stipulation.
I'm not okay with able to resolve.
The Rakdos guy that says you have to deal damage in order to cast him.
He's easy.
Lord of Riots.
Yeah,
that one's okay.
No problem. Lycia is not a problem. Just gain some life and drop her in for cheap. That's
the things that I'm simple. Saying is
that's really
Crushing Canopy. Playing Crushing Canopy in your main board. Destroy target enchantment or flying creature.
Oh, that card.
If they have neither of those things...
If they don't have either of those things, that card is dead in your hand because you can't target anything.
Yeah, but a majority... flying is super popular in Commander.
We're talking about it from more of an outlier perspective. Mm-hmm. While flying is used in Commander, there are going to be matchups where things can't fly.
That's fair.
And if I'm going to play a card that targets an enchantment or something that can fly...
It's an artifact or enchantment. Or not artifact or enchantment, it's just an artifact.
Alright, picture this. You have the option between Crushing Canopy and Doomblade.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them are objectively conditional. Doomblade can't kill black creatures, but it can kill everything else. Mm-hmm. And Crushing Canopy can hit either enchantments or flying creatures. No, it's enchantments.
Is that the card that you're trying to get me rid of?
No. You have a worse card, ironically. Called Crushing Vines. Which is destroy target artifact or flying creature for 1 less and is a sorcery instead of an instant.
No, Crushing Vines is instant. It's choose one, instant, destroy target creature with flying or destroy target artifact.
Okay, then it is instant.
Yes.
The point I'm getting at is artifacts have less control of a board than an enchantment does. Typically.
Yeah, see, and it's mostly because I'm a Commander player. I almost always see artifacts on people's fields.
Yeah, but
everybody has at least 1 or 2 artifacts in their deck.
That's true, but you can kill a mana rock or you can kill Profane Possession.
Fair.
You can get rid of No Mercy or Propaganda or something. Mirari's Wake. Any mana doubling thing. You can get rid of Doubling Season or Parallel Lives in the token decks. Mm-hmm. Any aura. I would say there are equal parts enchantments and artifacts in EDH.
Yeah.
I argue that the enchantments were better, so I went with Crushing Canopy, which is an objectively better card than the one you're playing. Mm. Point I'm trying to make. Say someone plays...
Well, let's go back to standard. If we look at Hazoret Rush, that card is dead.
Yeah. There are no enchantments on board, and there's no flyers, and you're dying to damage.
In most limited formats, you're not going to see a whole lot of artifacts, you're not going to see a whole lot of enchantments. Dead card. Although it's heavily printed in formats that have the draft-centric.
Then we can agree then that a bad card is something with just too many modifiers, stipulations to be able to play?
Narrow.
I believe narrow cards all have their place, like in the sideboard or in this box under my bed.
Okay.
If I can play Utter Ends and English the Makings, I'll do it all day long.
Yeah, if you can play Swords to Plowshares, why then would you play, like, Terror? Like, if you had an option of exile target creature and they gain life equal to its power, or destroy target non-black, non-artifact creature, which one would you choose?
Non-artifact, non-black.
I don't believe you. Oh. That's the wrong answer, Philip.
Now, with that in mind,
Are there situations where Swords to Plowshares is worse than Terror? Probably. In a general match where you don't know, where you have no idea what your opponent's playing, Swords to Plowshares is better.
Yeah, and like Crushing Binds in my Miri deck is just a placeholder right now until I get a Sylvan Reclamation. Or
Okay.
Return to Dust.
See,
I want both of them in
Return
there.
to Dust, I could understand because that's exile 2 target artifacts or enchantments.
And then Sylvan Reclamation is the same thing.
Yeah.
But Return to Dust has the stipulation that you only get one if it's not one of your main phases.
That's Return to Dust.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like that's the stipulation of Return to Dust is if you do it on anything other than your turn, you only get one. But if you do it on your turn, you get two. And with Sylvan Reclamation, you just do two. So I want both in there because like I run into a lot of problems with like indestructible artifacts. You know what I'm saying?
I don't.
I do.
That's
Okay.
because the colors you primarily play don't have the ability to use exile.
So like bad cards are good placeholders until you find the cards you really want.
alright, then let me present a question. Is a card like Hidden Path bad? 2 and 3 green enchantment. All creatures gain Forest Walk.
Yes,
Okay, why?
because it's too narrow. What happens when your opponents don't have forests?
Yeah, like I played Jedit in a game earlier today, and it did nothing because neither of them had forests, and I had no way of giving them a forest.
It's actually more likely to fuck you.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because it says all creatures, right?
or just be a useless.
All green creatures gain
All
Forest
green
Walk.
All green creatures.
Uh-huh.
That includes not yours.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, but now you're looking at 1/5, quote unquote, because our color pie of the creatures. The card to me is honestly still too narrow.
Yeah. So unless you have a way of giving your opponents a forest, there's really no reason to there's like Forest Walk becomes a dead it becomes a dead keyword on the cards.
yeah.
Or it becomes a free path for you and one of your opponents.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, hey, we're just gonna punch each other because we both have forests. Like, I don't know.
I still think it's a bad card.
Yeah,
Would 1 with nothing be a bad card? 1 black instant, discard your hand.
I could see it in like a Madness.
Okay, in a typical deck, yes. In a deck built around something like that, no.
Okay.
It could be a linchpin card in a deck that cares about Madness or Threshold.
Right.
I still think in general it's a bad card.
Okay.
Mm.
So consensus then is that a bad card, objectively a bad card, is too narrow.
Yes.
Yeah, too narrow.
If
Yeah.
you need 2 or more other things to support it, to go right, it's a bad card.
Right.
Now that being said, there are cards that are considered build-around cards that I think are great cards. Like Fevered Visions.
Yeah, cards that like require you to build.
I wouldn't...
But Fevered Visions is self-sustaining.
Yeah, and it itself was proven to be good.
It doesn't
Whereas others are
need,
proven to be bad.
it doesn't need something else to make it good.
It's gas. That's all it is. It's
Whereas
Alright,
one
so-
with nothing needs at least one other piece to make it worthwhile.
All right.
What about a card like Bargain, where it's 1 and a white, target player draws a card, and you gain 7 life?
I find that would be beneficial in like a multiplayer format.
Does it say target other player?
Kind of like
Target opponent draws a card.
yeah. No, I think
You gain 7 life.
definitely.
I think that's bad. I would rather draw a card than let them gain 7 life.
See, like in a one-on-one format, horrible. In a multiplayer format where there's the politics
Mm-hmm.
part of it, it's a great. Card.
So in EDH, it's good.
Yeah,
Okay.
it has its purposes in EDH. I can see that.
All right. Well, here's one. I believe everyone here thinks that Dubious Challenge is not a good card.
I gotta double check and remember what that does.
Doobie's Challenge is not a good card.
Okay. There is a YouTube video that I don't know if I can link or not because
Yeah, that's a horrible card.
Are you just going to start yelling out HTTP semicolon //
yeah.
YouTube.com/watch V equals.
No,
There's a goldfish, an MTG Goldfish video series called Against the Odds, where
Link in the doobly-doo.
yeah, link in the doodly doo, where they did Dubious Challenge and they made a modern Dubious Challenge deck that actually won most of its games in modern because the Dubious Challenge was Emrakul and then something that flickers it.
But
Glimmer
we're
Point
again
Stag.
talking about
Wait, which Emrakul?
something that
Against
requires
Torn.
The
at
newest
least
one?
2
No.
other
Old
pieces to make it good.
Yeah,
So narrow
But-
and too many pieces.
that deck was a good deck.
Right, but Dubious Challenge itself it wasn't by itself a good game changer. The effects that could be combined with other cards made it good.
Yeah, the direct scenario that you hit a card that on cast won you the game, and a card that on cast or enter the battlefield won you the game, and a card that flickers it and returns it to its owner's control, like Flicker Wisp. So say you get Emrakul the Aeon's Torn and Flicker Wisp. Your opponent gets to choose first. Say they choose Emrakul. They put Emrakul into the battlefield, and then you put Flicker Wisp into the battlefield, flickering Emrakul back into your control. You get both cards. Say they choose Flicker Wisp. Flicker Wisp enters. Its only target is either one of their creatures or Flicker Wisp, in which case you get Flicker Wisp, and then Emrakul enters the battlefield. They can even flicker Emrakul back under your control.
And see,
But that's still 2 pieces to make Doobie's Challenge good.
That
Yeah.
sounds like a budget modern deck too.
Funny enough, it was.
Like the most
Funny
expensive.
enough, it was a modern deck. It wasn't budget because Emrakul's expensive.
I know
as fuck.
that sounds like the most expensive part of the.
Yeah, and the lands.
Yeah.
Because it was
Well,
like
you would
a
still
4-color deck.
need
Yeah.
to actually cast Emrakul after that. But
And you have a 15/15 that's pretty beefy.
Like has
turn
Annihilator what? Annihilator 4 or 5? No. More?
So-
Anyway, point is,
horrible.
there are bad cards that if you build around them are good.
But objectively bad ones are narrow or need 2 or more pieces to become good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Annihilator 6.
I'll give an example of what I feel like it's a great card, and that's Approach of the Second Sun. Because by itself, it has the ability to put you at a great advantage in the game.
Which at first glance as a card seems super bad.
Yeah.
Because there's really nothing wrong with pay 7, gain 7 life.
Okay. So, I mean, objectively, in my opinion, yes, there is, but also the 7 cast wins you the game, so there's upside.
Mm-hmm.
Gain 7 life in 7 turns upside.
If
you're
gain
running
7
multiple-
life, set the inevitability clock.
Yeah,
If you're running
which is
3
very important.
and you have 2 in your hand, you cast 1, and then you pass, and then the next turn you cast it again, you win.
Actually, the current strategy is stall the game out until you have 14 mana and you play it twice.
Yeah.
Play for it, basically.
So,
Gotcha.
here's something. Do you guys think Phage is a good card or a bad card?
Objectively,
Yeah.
Phage objectively is not a good card. Only because if you just play if you play the game like normal and play Phage from your hand, then you're fine. But then at that point, it's just a 7-cast 7/7 that no one's going to let stay in play.
No.
Like, it's going to die pretty dang quick.
Sneaking it into play loses you the game because it didn't come from your hand.
Unless you have cards out that stop you.
Yeah, Phage is bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Phage is not good.
So, the perfect example of is a guy was playing it as his general, had a Platinum Angel out, played his general. In response, I exiled his Platinum Angel and he lost.
Right.
Like, it's like if you build around it, it can be good, but its defense is super weak.
All right. So now that we've defined bad cards, what about bad cards and being reprinted?
So, right. Why do they do that? I mean, if you reprinted nothing but good cards, there is a correlation between good cards being expensive, because if they were bad, no one would buy them.
Yeah.
But, at the same time, coming from a limited perspective, there are some cards in limited that you just wouldn't pick anyway. Like, at no point would I pick, going back to the spoiler...
Going back to Doomsday?
Well, yes, perfect. Or going back to, say, something like... I saw it.
Chupacabra?
That is
No,
a limited
Chupacabra.
bomb. Are you fucking kidding me?
You don't...
You slam that as fast as physically possible.
Well, Ben, it's been fun having you
Very
on the
clear.
podcast. This is your last day today.
Damn it! I'm a Timmy! Leave me alone.
It's very clear that Ben does not play limited
I don't
very often.
play limited. I am the commander player in the podcast. That's all I love to do. And
Like-
I'm not even a combo.
Will of the Wisp.
Yes.
0/1 flying regenerates for 1 black.
You're not going to talk about borrowing 100,000 arrows?
I like borrowing 100,000 arrows. You shut your own mouth.
See,
so-
I actually like Will-O-Wisp
I also like Will-O-Wisp and Limited.
because now you have a recurring flyer blocker.
You have basically negated whatever their best flying creature is.
What about-
Or their best creature in general.
What about Mana War?
Mana War is also incredible. It is a 2-for-1 for 3.
What about Horseshoe Crab?
What is that, like
It's
1/5?
a 2 and a blue, 1/3, pay a blue, untap Horseshoe Crab.
I probably wouldn't play it if I could avoid it. But if there's some sort of synergy with it, like something like tap, deal 1 damage to target player, or borrowing 1,000 arrows.
Holy crap, they're printing Ghost Ship.
Yeah, so there's a couple of these that I probably wouldn't play a lot of in Limited. But like your Horseshoe Crab, right?
Uh-huh.
That pairs well with Retraction Helix. Until end of turn, target creature gains tap, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Which becomes pay a blue, tap, untap, tap, untap, tap, untap. However much blue you have, I'm going to bounce your entire board.
Fair. But then
There's
again,
small combos like that you would play in Limited.
You're hoping...
Again, both bad cards.
They're both bad cards, but together they make one good card.
Or Horror of the Broken Lands.
Oh,
There
yeah,
doesn't seem to
card.
be a lot of cycling, really, in this set, so...
Sift.
There's a little bit, and cycling's kind of a sub-theme.
But
I think
not
there's about
enough to
6 or 7,
actually
and most of it's in
support
black.
Yeah.
Like Street Wraith, stuff like that.
The Horror would be a bad card
Fiddle
in this, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Fiddle
definitely.
thick.
Like,
Because it
I'm...
needs a lot of additional support,
Mhm.
and it's frail.
So... Why does
are-
Wizards print bad cards in sets? Do you think it's to simply fill? What are your thoughts, though?
Honestly, for me, it comes back down to game design. If every card was good, we'd be Yu-Gi-Oh, and
Yeah.
we're not.
Now,
Well,
as someone who
super
plays
hard.
Yu-Gi-Oh, not every card is good.
I know that not every card is good, but the problem is if every card is decent, you have a different level of stagnation
Right.
that requires power creep to get past.
Mm-hmm.
And like...
From a Limited standpoint, a lot of the cards that people think are bad are Limited staples, and you don't get an option what you get drafted some of the time. Like, a lot of... specifically in Old Limited, we've been kind of spoiled for the past while But in old limited, you would be scrambling for your 23 playables, and some of these cards just made it into your deck, and you had to figure out ways to use them, and that's part of the challenge of limited. That's why Visidrixes are rare.
I think Visidrix vapes.
Probably.
He seems like the cat.
Some dope ass vape.
Is it Micah who has all the Visidrixes?
Yes.
Yes.
So
his buddy has all the mountain giants.
So in limited, things like Horseshoe Crab and Retraction Helix are real combos. There are a lot of cards that people were like, these are bad cards, why does Wizards keep printing them? It's because they get used in limited a lot.
When in limited, the power curve is much lower than any constructed format.
Like
where Slash the Talons becomes a good reactive removal card because you have so many 2 toughness creatures in the format that Slash the Talons becomes a premium removal because you don't have access to the Vraska's Contempts.
Yeah.
and
Where
like,
you will play any sort of removal you can, even a 5-drop destroy target creature.
so
At sorcery.
what I feel like they're like I agree with them is like yeah, they're not good at constructed. Like cards that we consider bad are bad. We don't build them because they're bad. But like in a draft or a sealed event, they're key to. They're like those cards are the cards that are keys to victory.
Unless it's Horror of Fallen Lands, you don't have
what
Cyclone.
card that I think is very much a limited card, but is still not a bad card no matter you spin it? Scour from Existence.
No, that's been good. That is
That
a
card
good
is
card.
amazing.
7-drop, exile target permanent.
That's a good card.
Colorless. It kills Emrakul.
Well, it kills one of them.
That's right, because the new one is protection from
Instance.
instants and sorceries.
Yeah.
And the old one has protection from colored instants or colored spell. Or no, it has protection from
Colored spells.
colored spells. So it kills the expensive one. Right?
No, it kills the cheap one.
I thought the
Or no, it kills the expensive one.
it's
Cheap one has protection
It's
from
a
instants.
50-cent
Aeon's
card
Torn.
that kills
Yeah.
Aeon's Torn. Like that's an amazing card.
Point is, limited, like, a lot of bad cards that get reprinted are reprinted for limited, because without those cards in the set, limited would be hard to do. The bad rares, I don't have an excuse for. Rares are usually geared towards constructed.
Yeah.
Like that
I
one
don't really have an
Rare.
red mythic every set.
What is it?
15-cent mythic every set. I don't know why it's red, but it always is.
There's that book.
and
What
it's
is it?
always
Boom!
mythic.
Indomitable
What's that
creativity.
dragon? Shivan Dragon.
Shivan
Dragon is a limited
not
model.
a bad card.
Shivan Dragon is a
all of
mana
those
sink.
big dumb creatures that get printed at rare are rare because if they were printed in any other symbol or any other rarity, they would destroy limited.
Anything
like-
you could sink mana into.
So in this past draft set specifically, there is something that a lot of people thought should have been a rare. That is an uncommon that you players who don't play limited are going to laugh at. It's Charging Monstrosaur.
Yeah.
It is
I
a
love
5-drop red
He's so good.
5/5 trample haste.
I hate that.
That has too many keywords to be. What is it? An uncommon?
It's an uncommon.
It's got
That's too many
one.
keywords.
It's got two.
Trample haste.
Trample haste.
So
5 for 5.
5/5 for 4 and a red trample haste.
Yeah, 5 for 5 with 2 keywords. That is an amazing uncommon.
If you got that as a rare, you would be super fucking pissed.
Yeah.
Which is understandable, because if I got that as a rare, I would be pissed unless I was drafting, because I drafted it in front of every rare except for 3. Because it was better than every rare in the set except for 3, which was Hostage Taker. You usually would pass Vraska because there wasn't a good green and black archetype in Ixalan.
Yeah.
So you would pass every Planeswalker to play Charging Monstrosaur. Unless you got Carnage Tyrant, Hostage Taker, or fucking...
Jace.
No, you wouldn't play Jace. You'd pass it.
See, that's the difference between I go
Gatly?
It's because you money draft.
No.
I do money draft. That's just the way
It
I
was...
am.
I
I
can't
don't know,
remember. I
but-
can't remember what it was.
Ixalan's freaking
Regisaur Alpha.
draft made me look at my opponent's lands and go 1, 2, 3, 4, and a red.
I declare a thumb war.
Okay, we gotta be ready for this big ass 5/5.
Whenever
that
someone
shit.
played red, I tried to get at least 5 toughness on board before turn 5 because I knew exactly what I was about to be fucking hit with. And it felt bad every time.
It's almost as bad as that double damage dino.
It's worse than double damage dino because you can look at the damage dino for a turn and then realize it's going to fuck your world up.
You expect it more than the freaking
Boom.
3 and 2 red Glorybringer because the damn thing's uncommon. But you feared it just as much.
Yeah.
And like, it got cheaper with a Tepec Huntmaster. They would like turn 1 or turn 2 Huntmaster or turn 2 Drover. Turn 3 usually 4-drop rare like fucking. There's the 4-drop that gives it flying when it attacks, which is fun. There's the 4-drop that draws a card when it enrages. That one's fun. You can play some 3-drops in there. Sprinkle shit about. It's fine. And then turn 4 charging Monster Sword. And then hit someone in the goddamn dick. Anyway, I have strong feelings.
It was never a good feeling. Ixalan when your opponent tapped out 5 with red.
So, did they also say they're done? I'm getting a little off topic here. Just popped in my head.
That's fine. Go for it.
With the
These are closing questions, really.
The Masterpiece series?
Mm-hmm.
Did they say they're not doing that anymore? Or are they going to do it every now
No,
and
they
then?
said they're not doing it every set.
So they're going to do it every now
There
and
will be in the future.
So you think we're going to get one in Dominaria?
There is a theory that we will have masterpieces with core sets.
Yep.
I can believe that. It's easier to control.
Each
That
with
is.
a different theme,
It
and
is.
it gives spiky players a reason to buy core sets.
Yeah.
Easier to control, also.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with that answered, follow up to that is, what do you think the next Masterpiece set's going to be?
Enchantments.
Enchantments.
Yeah.
A lot of people thought it was going to be enchantments with the invocations and Amonkhet, but it wasn't. And people were disappointed because we got fucking days instead, which looks beautiful, but is also $2.
I really don't like the Amonkhet Masterpieces.
I honestly really hope that if they do another Masterpiece set, that they match the theme of whatever they're printing from. So if they're printing from the core set, honestly, I want it to feel like the super rares from the reprints in that set.
Mm-hmm.
Or they can do a Titan set for Masterpieces of 25 different Titan cycles.
You think we'll ever get a Planeswalker Masterpiece
No,
set?
absolutely not.
Never?
They already do that. It's called San Diego Comic-Con.
That's true. Yeah. But that's always, almost always the same walkers, isn't it?
Pretty much.
I would like.
I mean, it's one walker from every color, one monocolored walker.
Yeah.
I would really like.
Unless you're Garruk.
Like it to be like the super rares you see in other TCGs, where it's just an augmented, higher value version of something else in the
like a Yu-Gi-Oh! Ghost rare.
in the set. Which is why I want it to be. Which is why I love the idea of it being in a core set, because it's primarily a reprint anyway, and all you now have is the same card, so you're not messing with any limited format with hyper rare, hyper powerful cards. You're just
Oops, I have a
with
Force Soil.
hyper valuable versions of other cards already in the set.
Like alternate arts.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Nice. I think that'd be fun too. I think that's a good
Instead of
option.
it being
Then they're all standard relevant.
instead of it being like an event prize, it just be in the set itself somewhere.
Yeah, like Masterpieces usually are.
Yeah.
So they'd be in the set. They would be like alternate art rarities of the cards that are in the set of certain cards.
I would even also
Like the cycle cards.
vie for the return of the God Pack, the one pack that has 15 masterpieces in it.
Yeah. I'm
Just
sad I started playing Magic after that
If you
happened.
had-
That'd have been cool to
If
try
you
to
had
get.
for every palette one of those packs in all of those boxes was an entire set of 15 masterpieces from that set, that would be beautiful.
That'd make it
That'd be
worth
fun.
it. Make it worth it.
And then you have your hard cap number for your masterpieces per set, and you're not really looking at anything crazy. You don't have to have a high amount of investment because you're not trying to put 52 of these in a block. Like they've been trying to do.
I would probably put 15 into a core set.
And most of these cards that they put in this, in Masterpiece in the past, deserve to just be in a Master's set regardless.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's just the
maybe.
specialty printing. It's the pretty printing is all it is.
Which is why I like to see them as, quote, the super rare version of a card in a set.
That'd be good.
I could get behind that. They won't do it because it's a good idea.
Are we ready to wrap this thing up?
Yeah, I'm out
Yeah.
of questions.
I'm good.
All right.
I'm Ben Miller and I'm Timmy.
I'm Eric. I'm Johnny.
And I'm Cody, and I'm a Spike.
And this was our guest, Philip.
This is our first attempt at a podcast of Timmy, Johnny, and Spike. We hope you enjoyed it. We're going to be putting this up as a YouTube video and up on SoundCloud. So you can download it using your typical podcast player, whether that's Apple Podcasts or I like Podcast Addict for Androids personally. But there's this will be up. A ghost just turned on the TV, so it's fine.
Yeah, there's I'm pretty sure that this place is haunted.
So,
Jesus, what the hell? That spooked the shit out of me.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
I don't know. I'm closest to the TV. I'm a little worried.
Oh, you're fine.
I'm sure it's fine.
I'm sure that you'll be all right.
It got a little cold in here.
Thanks, guys, for having me.
Yep.
I'd love to come back. I'd like to talk.
That's
This
good.
will be 2 episodes. We're gonna try to do this bi-weekly for Magic, and then every other week Magic, and then hopefully the weeks that aren't Magic we can talk about video games or something.
That'll be fun.
Pokemon.
I love me some Pokemon.
Nice. All right. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time.
Goodbye.
Don't forget, it's not braver if you don't mulligan to 5.
Oh, shit.